It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I am not here as an expert in the field of mental health, but I'm here to promote a call to action to everyone, starting here at Lehigh and across the United States, to make a more concerted effort to focus on mental health issues among our students, because unfortunately there is a mental health crisis affecting us across the United States. 1 in 4 students in the college students, I'm only focusing on college students, in the United States have a diagnosable illness. Almost 2/3 of those students do not seek help when it's needed. 80% of students who are surveyed feel overwhelmed at times. Half of students feel a sense of hopelessness. And last but certainly not least, suicide has become the #2 cause of death among college students in the United States. So what can we do about this? Has anyone here ever suffered from any type of mental health problem, or do you know anyone who's ever suffered from any? Okay, quite a few. Actually, there were more hands raised than I thought, because a lot of people, there's still a stigma attached with mental health, and a lot of people don't acknowledge that they've either had a problem, or that they have a family member or a friend who's had a problem. And unfortunately, our colleges are not addressing the issue. Let me give you a few examples of how colleges have handled mental health issues. Dan is a student at Princeton. He is feeling down, thinks he's depressed, goes to the hospital. He's admitted for 3 days. He comes out, he's feeling good, he's going to meet with a counselor periodically, gets a letter from Princeton that his enrollment has been revoked. He is no longer welcome back on campus. Now his parents hired an attorney, went through litigation. Eventually he did win his appeal, finished up his studies at Princeton. Another student, Samantha, at University of Chicago, also hospitalized, but involuntarily. Roommate was concerned about her, reported to the student counseling center. She was called in, security took her to the hospital. She was admitted as a suicide risk. The whole time she insisted, I'm not depressed, I'm not a suicide risk, I don't really need to be here. She gets a letter from the Dean of Students office telling her she has 48 hours to clear out her dorm room. Again, she's no longer welcome on campus. The reasoning behind Princeton's, their rationale was that Dan was a risk of harm to himself or others. Chicago, unfortunately, their theory was that it would be a bad PR move if this student comes back and commits suicide. Another example a little closer to home. Joseph was a student here at Lehigh. Spring of his sophomore year, suddenly goes off the grid. He's not going to class, he's not swiping in the cafeteria, he is not socializing. No one seems to notice anything's amiss. No one reports anything. What's striking about his example is that he shared a suite at Broadhead with the RA for that floor. The RA never even noticed anything. Ignorance is bliss, isn't it? Well, not for Joseph. He was eventually hospitalized, had weeks of outpatient therapy at a day program of some sort. And by then, we're looking at May, finals are coming around. He's not capable of taking his finals, because anybody who knows anything about depression and anxiety knows that you can't just bounce back from something like that. He requests that the university let him withdraw from his classes because he's just not going to be able to finish up the semester. That request is denied. He's told, but you can take your finals at some point before the semester starts. He's not physically, mentally capable of doing that. Eventually, he fails that semester. The end result was that financial aid then denied they revoked his financial aid for the fall, so again, he wasn't able to come back to class either. So unfortunately, that we see a pattern developing here. Schools, they're just throwing away these kids. They're not doing what needs to be done to help them. They're not providing them reasonable accommodation like we do with a student who has a physical disability or a student with a learning disability. It's very easy to provide reasonable accommodation for someone with a physical disability, but schools don't know what to do when you have a student with a mental health issue. So what do we do from here? Where do we go? Yeah, everyone might say, well, it's not my problem. Or, I don't know what to do about it. What do I do? There are steps that can be taken. There are student groups that we can have on every campus in the country. Active Minds is a group that was started at Penn in 2001. There are now 400 Active Minds chartered across the country, And it's a group that empowers students to help each other, provides students with resources, teaches them how to look for warning signs. And once you find a student who you think is in crisis, then they teach you what steps to take to help that student. This is just a list of the active minds charters here in Pennsylvania. Another student group that you have here at Lehigh, actually, NAMI on campus. And I understand NAMI now is starting to get more involved. But it's important that the students are engaged and are involved, even something like doing triage at the dining hall or in the student center, doing surveys of students, one-on-one, to find out who needs counseling. And granted, our counseling centers are swamped. They're underfunded, they're understaffed, they can't handle the volume that is needed on a day-to-day basis. And unfortunately, colleges tend to cut things like that. When they have budget restrictions, they're going to cut counseling services. And unfortunately, those are the things that we need more of instead of less of. Another thing that we really should focus on is training. We can't rely on our students. We need to train our faculty, we need to train our staff, we need to train our administrators, as well as our students, regarding what to look for. What are the warning signs? What can we do to help our students? If we can't handle it here at campus, then we need to work with off-campus organizations. There are plenty of organizations out there that provide free counseling services. I'm frozen. Okay, I don't need it. So the end result is we need to help our students stay in school. Or if they leave school for treatment, we need to be able to provide readmission for them. So again, you're probably sitting there saying, well, this all sounds good, but what can I do? You need to contact your school administrators. You need to force them to do something to address the ongoing issues. I know I don't want to run over time because you took some of my time.
I feel guilty.
But if anyone has questions or would like to discuss anything confidentially, or you want to know where you can go for resources, feel free to see me after the talk. I do have some suicide cards. It's a little wallet card you keep in your wallet, and you can refer to it to see what the signs are. You know, if you see a roommate who all of a sudden is sitting in his or her room listening to music for hours on end when that person was never like that before. It just kind of gives you things to look for. But anyway, see me afterwards. If somebody wants to talk confidentially, I'll have a pad in the back. You can put your name and email address down or phone number. We can strike up a conversation. I can connect you with some resources that would be very important. So let's get it started here. As I said, there are things going on across the country, but there's no concerted effort. I got a minute. I'm going to keep going. One thing we might want to segue with, I know here at Lehigh and other schools, you have something called an alcohol EDU program that all students have to take before they start here on campus. That would be the perfect thing. Incorporate in with your alcohol EDU a confidential survey, a mental health survey, a depression survey. There are a bunch of different things that you can do to get your students prepared to come to campus, because unfortunately, the mind doesn't, if we have any psych majors, the mind doesn't mature until age 26. We're sending our 18 and 19-year-old kids to college, and they're not prepared to deal with the stressors or everything else that they have to deal with, you know, of being alone. You know, mom and dad aren't around the corner or downstairs anymore. So we need to incorporate some of these things like that alcohol EDU with mental health so that kids are more prepared when they get here. Thank you for being here. I hope that you will accept my call to action and become involved and do something to promote our mental health on college campuses across the country. Thank you.